Welcome to the deep dive. We dig into complex stories, case files, and pull out the really essential bits of insight so you leave understanding what truly matters. Today, let's start with, well, an almost perfect picture. Think Santa Barbara sunshine. You've got John, this really popular, principled police officer, and he's married to Mary, attractive, seems genuinely kind, you know?
Right, and their romance, it was fast, passionate. They get married, and John, he truly saw Mary as his entire world, the absolute center of everything.
But yeah, hold that image for a second, because just beneath that surface, total darkness, a whirlpool of betrayal, incredible greed.
Yeah, this isn't just about a relationship going sour. We're looking at a conspiracy here.
Yep.
Calculated, meticulous, built on years of lies.
We've been diving into the case files, specifically looking at excerpts from Shadows of Lies in Memphis, and our mission today really is to understand how a plot like this fails. How does something so carefully planned, relying on deep trust, insider knowledge, how does it unravel?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because that very trust, that closeness, it breeds a kind of arrogance, maybe, hubris. When the betrayal comes from your wife, your partner.
For people you'd never suspect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They think they know all the angles. They think they can control the investigation because they're a part of it, essentially. But that closeness, it poisons the well. It leaves traces they don't expect.
Okay, let's really unpack the core deception, because it's this toxic triangle operating right in plain sight. You've got John, the victim, Mary, his wife, and then Mike. And Mike wasn't just some colleague. He was John's old friend, his actual police partner.
Yeah, a really tight inner circle, completely fused. And the timeline here is just, it's brutal. This wasn't some affair that started after the wedding, impulsively. No, the source material is clear. Mary and Mike, their secret affair began years before John and Mary even met, let alone married.
Wow, years.
Years. And they kept it going. Right through the marriage, they got really good at pretending. A decades-long performance of loyalty to John.
That level of emotional betrayal it's staggering, honestly. But still, it doesn't automatically lead to murder, does it? I mean, why? Why risk everything on a murder plot?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mary could have just divorced him. They could have eventually been together openly. Why the huge leap to murder? Was it really necessary?
And that's where the motive shifts, you see. It moves away from just passion or wanting to be together into something much colder, pure calculation.
Okay.
Once they decided on murder, the drivers weren't just emotional anymore. The sources point to two things. Sure, maybe some boredom with their ordinary lives, keeping up the lies, but the big one, intense financial greed.
Ah, the money.
Bingo. Mary had, not too long before, taken out a really significant life insurance policy on John, a huge one.
Oh, okay.
And that potential payout, that massive, immediate sum of cash, that was the accelerant. That's what pushed them from just betraying him to actually planning this execution. It became essentially a dark business decision.
So this wasn't just about getting rid of John. It was a strategy for a massive financial win. And the plan was to make it look like, what? An accident.
Yeah.
Or something that happened in the line of duty.
Exactly. Blend it into the risks of police work, make it seem like he ran into some unknown attacker. Untraceable. Random. Tragic, but, plausible for a cop.
And Mike's role in this, being John's partner, that's just chillingly cynical.
It's the core of the plan's mechanics. As John's partner, Mike had access, privileged internal information. Crucially, he knew John's patrol schedules.
Right. That insider knowledge is everything. It let them pick the when and, more importantly, the where. A place they knew John would likely be alone.
Isolated. No immediate backup expected. They weren't counting on luck. They were using the police department's own logistics against itself.
Okay, so the night itself, it's raining. John's assigned to patrol this deserted industrial area. Quiet zone, low risk, right?
Just as they planned. Perfect conditions for an ambush.
Yeah.
Mike was already there, lying in wait. Ready. The whole thing depended on surprise. The kind only an insider, someone John wouldn't perceive as a threat initially, could guarantee. John gets out of his patrol car. Mike approaches from behind. There's apparently a short struggle, quick. Then Mike shoots John.
And here's that detail you mentioned, the really calculated part. The gun. Mike used his personal firearm, not his police service weapon. Why? What was the thinking there?
That was all about trying to break the evidence chain. See, a service weapon. That immediately triggers specific protocols. Ballistics databases, strict chain of custody logs, especially in an officer-involved shooting.
Right, it's all tracked.
Very closely tracked.
Right.
By using his personal gun, Mike thought he could sidestep all that. make the weapon seem unconnected to him, untraceable back to official police sources. Clever in a twisted way.
And while Mike is carrying out the murder in this dark, rainy spot, Mary is performing her part.
Absolutely. She's at a party with friends, playing the role of the loving, worried wife, checking her phone, maybe making a show of her anxiety about John being out late.
Building that alibi.
Exactly. It wasn't just about where she was. It was about crafting the narrative before anyone even knew John was dead. Appear devastated, but also, cooperative later. Make sure no one questions her movements or her emotional state too closely.
And for a while it seemed like it worked, didn't it? The initial scene must have looked like John confronted someone unknown.
It did. And Mike. He played the grieving partner to perfection. He was even at the scene later offering help, condolences, the perfect cover.
But then Inspector Roberts comes into it, the veteran detective.
Yes. And Roberts, he brought that experienced, maybe slightly jaded, skeptical eye. He looked at this scene that everyone else was maybe seeing as a tragic, but sadly routine event for law enforcement.
And he saw something else.
He wasn't immediately buying the unknown assailant story. He wasn't focused on chasing some phantom attacker right away. He started looking at the inconsistencies around John himself.
Okay, so what tipped him off? Why push deeper when the obvious story was right there? It wasn't like they handed him a suspect on a plate.
Well, Roberts seemed to understand that crimes committed by insiders, people close to the victim, they just feel different. They leave different kinds of traces, or sometimes a lack of traces where you'd expect them. He zeroed in on 3 specific things that just didn't sit right with him.
Okay, what were they?
First, this skill discrepancy, let's call it. John wasn't a rookie. He was seasoned, experienced. So Roberts is thinking, why was he caught so completely off guard? Especially in a supposedly low-risk area. It just didn't make tactical sense for John to be that vulnerable.
So it felt wrong for an officer like him.
Exactly. And the likely answer, it's psychological. John was trained for external threat suspects, ambushes from strangers. He wasn't mentally prepared for an attack from his own partner, his friend.
The betrayal itself was the weapon.
Precisely. Mike didn't need to outskill John. He just needed to betray his trust. That specific type of vulnerability, Roberts picked up on that. That was doubt number 1.
Okay, what was the second red flag?
The crime scene itself. The physical environment. Despite reports of a struggle, there was a striking lack of evidence. No messy footprints suggesting panic, no signs of a desperate attacker fleeing.
Nothing scattered around.
Very little. And apparently no significant defensive wounds on John that would suggest a prolonged fight with an unknown attacker. The scene felt, too clean, too controlled.
Interesting. So not chaotic enough for a random attack.
Right. Roberts figured a real desperate confrontation usually leaves a mess, chaos. The absence of that chaos suggested the opposite, that the encounter was managed, maybe even orchestrated. Only someone familiar with John, controlling the timing, maybe even the location within that area, could pull off such a neat scene.
Okay, tactical mismatch, clean scene. What was the third thing?
This was more about behavior, the behavioral insight. Roberts paid close attention to Mary's reaction, her grief. He noted that, she seemed sad, sorrowful, but there was something else. It felt a bit too professional, too managed.
Professional grief, what does that look like?
Well, think about it. Real, raw grief is often messy, unpredictable, illogical even. This, according to Roberts' observations in the file, seemed more organized. She was focused on the practicalities, the insurance calls, making sure her story was straight. It was almost too effective, suggesting maybe she'd already processed the loss emotionally long before John was actually killed.
Wow. So the way she handled it seemed off.
Subtly, yes, but significant to an experienced investigator like Roberts.
So if you put those 3 together, the tactical implausibility of John being caught off guard, the strangely clean crime scene, and Mary's overly controlled grief.
Exactly. They all started pointing away from a random attacker and towards the people closest to John. They created that crucial seed of doubt.
But doubt isn't enough to make a case, right? He needed proof.
Absolutely. Behavioral clues, inconsistencies, they give you a direction. But Roberts knew he needed hard, objective evidence, verifiable data. So he moved past the emotional performances and started digging into the technology, the records.
And this is where the digital footprint comes in, the phones.
Yes, that was the breakthrough. Reviewing the call records, and crucially, the GPS location data from both Mary's and Mike's phones.
And what did that show?
Technology doesn't lie about where you were. The data completely contradicted their alibis. It placed both of them near that deserted industrial area on the night John was killed, and also in the key hours leading up to it.
So the cell towers, the GPS pings, they put the supposedly grieving partner and the worried wife right where they swore they weren't.
Exactly. Undeniable proof of proximity. And then that was combined with the paper trail.
The life insurance policy.
Right. A deep dive into the financial records confirmed it. Mary had recently taken out that huge policy on John. Suddenly you have this perfect triangle.
Motive.
Money, opportunity, insider knowledge of schedule location, and now physical proximity confirmed by GPS.
The whole story just locked into place.
It did. Confronted with the GPS data showing where they really were and the financial documents showing why they might want John dead, their stories just fell apart. The facade crumbled.
And they confessed.
Under intense questioning, faced with irrefutable evidence. Yes, both Mary and Mike confessed to the entire plot.
Leading to the final verdicts. Justice served, finally. Mike, convicted of the actual murder.
For pulling the trigger, yes. And Mary, convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. For being the architect, driven by that greed.
You know, this case really underscores something important when you're looking at these complex plots. Even a plan built on deep insider knowledge, on profound personal trust, something that seems almost perfectly executed, it can be completely dismantled by two key things. First, just critical, skeptical thinking, like Roberts refusing to just accept the easy, surface-level story.
Absolutely, questioning the inconsistencies.
And second, the power of objective, verifiable data, the stuff that doesn't have an agenda, GPS, financial records.
It's fascinating because they managed the human element so well, didn't they? The emotional narrative, the tactical details of the shooting itself, but they couldn't control the data trails, the digital logs, the paper trail.
Yeah.
The greed gave them the why. But their inability to completely hide their movements, their financial actions, that gave investigators the how and the who, that provided the proof.
So as we wrap up, here's something for you to think about. Looking back at this whole conspiracy, founded on betrayal and money, what do you think was the single most fatal mistake Mary and Mike made? Was it the huge life insurance policy, that raw financial motive that maybe